Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another The Flash episode review right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, to bring you the latest in this week's The Flash episode reviews. And this is my review of Season 2, Episode 19, entitled Back to Normal. Appropriately titled, I think, because in this week's episode, we are retreading territory. We are dealing with two premises that we have already seen previously done in the series. The first of which we've actually seen previously this season, where we are dealing with a depowered Barry. And as it just so happens, this is after a major confrontation with Zoom. If you all will recall, earlier in Season 2, we got an episode where Barry was crippled and he wasn't able to perform properly as the Flash, and he wasn't able to protect Central City as he had done in the past, right after his first major battle with Zoom. And so in this week's episode, it's the same thing. We just got done dealing with Zoom last week. Barry gave up his powers to him. So once again, we're dealing with a depowered Barry. But this time around, he doesn't have his powers at all. The second premise is one that I don't think we've seen since Season 1. And that is our villain for this week is a metahuman, an Earth 1 metahuman at that, who targets Harrison Wells as part of a revenge ploy due to Wells being responsible for the particle accelerator explosions. Now, what did I think about the episode, though? I would say this was a decent episode. By comparison to last week, this was a decent episode. And the reason why I say that is because even with the two premises being repeated in this episode, I still think that this episode did a few things right, a few things wrong, but the good outweighs the bad. And I'm going to get into more detail with that later on in this review. So first, let's talk about the good of the episode. What I think worked really well in this episode. Number one, Jessie's back. I think her scenes were the best ones in this week's episode. I've stated before that I always liked Jessie as a character. I think she offers a lot of very interesting possibilities for the series. I think she has a lot of potential as a character, and that they could really go into some interesting territory with her. Also, not ignoring entirely her comic book counterpart, which I've tried, and I'm still trying to really keep myself from dwelling too much into her comic book mythology. But knowing what little I know of her of the comics, I know that she is at some point in time going to play a bigger role, or at least I can hope. And we did get her comic book moniker dropped in the series for the first time in this episode, Jessie Quick. So the fact that they brought Jessie back, that is a move in the right direction. I think that was really smart. And once again, the whole conflict that she has with Harry, their banter, their back and forth, their current disagreement, once again resurfaced in this episode. And as tiring as it might sound, because we've already seen this, I think this is the third or fourth time we're seeing this between these two characters. At the end of the day, though, it's still consistent. It still falls in line with Jessie's character, and I don't really mind it too much. Why? Because it keeps cementing the idea that regardless of how Jessie feels about her dad, regardless of what he's done in the past, regardless of how obsessive he is and some of his behavior, the arrogance and all that type of jazz, you know, the idea that he killed someone, even if it was for her benefit, the idea that he killed someone, that's a line Jessie, under no circumstance does she think should be crossed. So her still taking that stance in this episode, it only further reinforces that about her character, and I think that's important, especially for what could potentially happen with her later on in the series. And even at the end of the episode, when that conflict was resolved, I bought it, because I don't think it was necessarily Jessie letting Harry off the hook. I think it was more of she forgave him for what happened then, and now she's trying to focus more on where they will go later on. But I don't think that she completely let him off the hook, because I don't see, if that was to repeat itself, I don't see her acting any differently. I think she would still take the same stance, and she even said, you know, how do I know this won't happen again? You know what I mean? So once again, even that resolution I think was consistent. I didn't find too much problem with that. Okay, second thing I thought worked really well in this episode was the little bit we got of Wally and Wally wanting to meet the Flash. This I think was really good because I think it did an adequate job setting the groundwork for Wally to become a member of Team Flash. And this is what I mean. So in this week's episode, Wally approaches Joe wanting to meet the Flash. We find out that he wants to thank the Flash for saving him in the previous episode. Now, once again, if you all remember my review from last week, I thought it was contrived as hell that Wally would just be used as the victim, used as another hostage, this is than the other. Well, turns out no, it actually was setting the groundwork for Wally's involvement with Team Flash, because in this week's episode, Wally said he wants to thank the Flash for saving his life, and at the end of the episode, when he finally talks with the Flash, he relays this message, this idea that he owes a debt to him. You saved my life. I don't know how I would ever be able to repay you, but I'm going to make the most of the opportunity you gave me. That in and of itself is the perfect motivation for Wally to have, so that in the future, maybe next season, who knows how long it'll take, but if Wally does become a speedster, and at that point he decides to to become Kid Flash, I would totally buy it, just off of that motivation. So that I thought was done really well. Now I'm going to go ahead and segue into the villain, because I'm actually mixed on the villain, and I'm gonna tell you guys why. Okay, so here's the thing. In this week's episode, we got a metahuman. Once again, as I said before, this is an Earth 1 metahuman, and we are doing the whole particle accelerator revenge plot, right? Oh, Wells, you did this to me, this is that and the other. However, key difference is, number one, it's not strictly a revenge plot, because he wants Wells to pretty much reverse the effects of the particle acceleration explosion so that it could cure him of his ailment, because this metahuman, he was given superhuman strength, but at the cost of his life. It was draining him. He was losing years off of his life. Now, see, that in and of itself, I love. I love that premise. I love that idea. And yeah, it is something, I don't know if we've seen that with a villain in Flash necessarily, but of course there are many DC villains who do have that sort of power set where it's like the more they use their abilities, the weaker they become. Hell, I mean, we got some of that earlier in the season with the whole V6, V9 situation. The more you used it, the weaker it made you. So the idea, that idea I think was pretty good. That was pretty solid. And then even the fact that, oh, I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want to kill you if I don't have to. I just need you to undo the damage that was done so that it can cure me. That I thought worked. What didn't work was the fact that we were getting a villain who, if Barry had his powers, if Barry had his speed, this villain would have been done in less than a minute. Why? Because his weakness was overexerting himself. The more of his power he used, the weaker he became. If Barry had his speed, all he'd have to do is run around the kid a couple of times and bam, end of story. So I thought, once again, it goes to plot convenience. It hinders on plot convenience. Oh, we have a villain that could be defeated even if Barry didn't have his powers, and if Barry did have his powers, would be defeated oh too easy. We weren't given a villain who would legitimately pose a serious threat to Barry, Flash or not. And see, and that's where I think it was a missed opportunity, because if it's one thing to give us this episode as, oh, this is sort of like some downtime for Barry, but the idea, and I think that's why they keep doing it, is so that we can see how much Barry is hurting and how bad he's suffering, not being able to perform at the level he's normally capable of. Okay, if you want us to feel that with Barry, that's cool, but you gotta give him a threat. You have to give him a threat that justifies that. You know what I mean? So that's where I think that it was a missed opportunity for the episode. I think it was a misstep, because the idea, the concept was really good, but how it all played out, yeah, just handled poorly, I think. And so now that's going to segue to the only real negative I have about the episode. Once again, as I said, the good outweighs the bad, because I only really have one negative about the episode, and that's Caitlin's whole abduction. Caitlin's whole abduction, completely superfluous. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. And now, in hindsight, it seems like the only reason why we got Caitlin's abduction and why why Zoom brought her back to Earth 2 was so that we could get an episode with her and her doppelganger, her and Killer Frost. That's it. Why? Because how does that whole thing end? Oh, she tries to help Killer Frost escape. Oh, Killer Frost crosses her, Zoom stops her, and guess what? Zoom decides, hey, we're going to go back to Earth 1 and terrorize your Earth. So Caitlin's coming right back to Earth 1, along with Zoom. Completely superfluous. Completely superfluous. The team didn't have to go after her. She didn't have, we didn't even bother dragging out the whole her trying to escape from Zoom or this is that and the other. We didn't try her getting in on his good side so that she could try to sabotage him or poison him or use some of his information against him. We didn't try, oh, I'm going to escape and I'm going to take that mass prisoner along with me and he has the key to bringing Zoom down, so then I just got to find out how to get back to Earth 1 so that I can inform the rest of the team and then we can team up and take him out. We didn't do any of that. We didn't do any of that. Nope. It was like, oh, I'm here. I tried to escape. That's thwarted. And now, oh, Zoom's here. Oh, guess what? We're going back home. What was the point then? What was the point? That's the only negative I had about the episode, and it's the same thing that I mentioned in last week's review. There was no point in abducting Caitlin. That was completely pointless. Waste of time. Waste of time. Now, I will say this. The only good thing about that was the fact that because Caitlin was gone, Jessie was the one who had to step in and fill in her role. And so we got to see how capable Jessie really is as a scientist. That was the only benefit. The only one. So as I said, back to normal, decent episode. Not bad, because there were a couple of really good things with it. And like I said, it outweighs the one real negative about the episode. So all in all, decent episode. So that's going to go ahead and conclude my The Flash episode review. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. In the comments below, please leave your thoughts on this week's episode. Let me know what you guys are thinking about next week's episode. Because it looks like next week's episode, we are going to recreate the particle accelerator explosion so that Barry can get his speed back. And that I called the second I found out that the villain's motivation had to do with the particle accelerator. The second they brought that up, I'm like, I bet you they try to recreate that sucker so Barry can get his speed back. And I was totally right by the end of the episode. But what I am looking forward to next week is the fact that Barry's dad comes back for next week's episode. I've always liked his dad's character. I've always loved that actor. And yeah, I'm biased because that is the Flash from the original 90s series. Same actor and whatnot. So yeah, I'm a little bit biased. But Barry's dad was one of my favorite characters from season 1, and I always loved the episodes that he was in. So the fact that he has been gone for the majority of season 2, yeah, that void has been felt. And we kind of need his dad back in the series because his dad does provide a lot of heart and a lot of the emotional engagement for the audience into this series. So I'm looking forward to that next week. But as I said, leave your thoughts on this week's episode. Let me know what you guys are thinking about next week's episode. If you like this review, please feel free. Thumb it up, share it with other fans of the show and people you think would enjoy my review. And if you have yet to do so, subscribe to the OAW YouTube channel. Annotation is above head. Now, join me tomorrow night. Arrow finally returns. Arrow is finally back after the WTF death moment, okay? And so my Arrow episode review will be up tomorrow night. Thursday, Legends of Tomorrow. Friday, special announcement. Discussion of the week is moving to Friday. So this Friday, you all will be getting the latest discussion of the week video. Saturday, top 5, and then by Sunday, when Sunday rolls around, you'll be getting my Hunter x Hunter episode 3 review. And with that being said, it's been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, signing off, and until next time, peace.